الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين ثم أما بعد. I'd like to start today by wrapping up some things from section 6 in your notes, that is on page 14. And inshallah ta'ala, thereafter, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I think it's considered mission impossible today. What we're going to do is we're going to take shorter breaks today, okay? Because I can't afford to give you too much time off today. So eat fast. And, pray slowly. I can't tell you to pray fast, but pray slowly, but eat fast, and no hour break for lunch today. Sorry. We're gonna wrap up whatever we're gonna eat and pray in 30 minutes and be back. Because I just don't have enough time to cover the stuff I really, really, really want to cover with you. And I will be seriously depressed if I didn't get to finish the things that I wanted to share with you, inshallah, okay? So, let's get this started. In section 6, I want to give you an introduction a little bit again. Before we get to the macro side, this is the last piece of the micro side of things. The idea of sequencing something in your speech, okay? As I'm speaking to you, sometimes I mention two things in my sentence. I say something like, the days and nights that I spent on vacation, etc., etc. So I mentioned days and then I mentioned nights. I ordered these two words in my head a certain way. Was I conscious of it? Not really. I just said it just came in my head and I said it. I could have, maybe in another conversation, I could have said the nights and days that I spent there were awesome. In other words, I say day and nights, and subconsciously sometimes I say nights and days, and I don't really think about that sort of thing, because people, when they speak, human beings, when we speak, there are conscious parts of our speech, and there are also subconscious parts of our speech, and we're not really in control all the time of the subconscious parts of our speech, right? So if you're used to saying things a certain way, you always say them the same way. So if you're used to saying boys and girls, subconsciously you always say what? Boys and girls. You almost never say girls and boys. And actually when you say girls and boys, you have to consciously think about it. So what happens in our heads, this is kind of like speech pathology and linguistics combined a little bit. In our conscience, we get used to saying things a certain way. And that just becomes the natural way for us to communicate. So if you like putting something first and something second, it's just the way you do it. Now the interesting thing is that the Quran, from a linguistics perspective, is really remarkable because Allah breaks these patterns all the time. He doesn't stick to one way of saying something. Like for example, He doesn't just say, Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. And every time He says, Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir, and Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir, sometimes He says, Wallahu khabirun bima ta'malun. Wallahu khabirun bima ta'malun. He changes it. Now for a normal human being who's used to saying something repeatedly, they would say it one way and they will stick to that one way and they'll never change it. It would just not be possible for them. But Allah Azza wa Jal changes it over and over and over again on multiple occasions. And sometimes He changes it so quickly that actually human beings in our natural speech, we can't even keep up. We can't do that so rapidly in our speech the way Allah does that in His speech. So I want to give you some examples of how that is so incredible in the Quran. Something that we consciously, human beings consciously are incapable of doing. We're just incapable of it. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ آمَنَّا بِهِ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. This is an ayah from Surah Al-Mulk. This is on page 14 in that first section. I'm zooming in on it here. You guys can see it now, right? قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ. Say He is Ar-Rahman. آمَنَّا بِهِ. We have believed in Him. We've believed in Him. وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. And upon Him we rely. Now I want you to look at this carefully. We believe in Him. Upon Him we rely. There's actually a strange rearrangement. If you have a certain speech pattern, you say, we believe in Him, we rely upon Him. Isn't that how you would say it? But one part of the statement was in normal ordering, we believe in Him. The other part of the statement, immediately Allah switched over and said, instead of saying we rely upon Him, which is not said in the Quran, what is said is, upon Him we rely. Upon Him we rely. Immediate switch. Now, these kinds of changes in sequence inside of a sentence, they have a reason. If you go back a little bit, a couple of days ago when we were much younger on Friday night, I told you about normal order and strange order. You remember that? And normal order and strange order, for those of you that are students of the Arabic language, this is the subject matter of at-taqdeem wa at-ta'khir. Right? And there are 4 benefits of this thing in Balagha studies and all of that, but I'm not giving you that technical lesson. What I did tell you on Friday night was, when you use the unusual order, then what you are adding to the discussion is the word only. Remember, hamd only belongs to Allah as opposed to hamd belongs to Allah? Right? So what Allah is saying then here is, we believe in Him, but we only rely upon Him. So the second statement actually has an only, and where did the only come from? From the unusual sequencing. You guys with me so far? Now that's incredible. That's actually incredible. Why? Because we believe in Allah, but we don't only believe in Allah. We believe in Allah, we believe in the prophets, we believe in the angels, we believe in the Day of Judgment, we believe in the books, we believe in predestination, we believe in Jannah, we believe in Jahannam, we believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah. We believe in lots of things. We don't just believe in one thing. Saying we only believe in Allah would be a problem. Sequencing it as bihi amanna would be a problem. But when it comes to relying on someone, do we rely on the angels? Do we rely on the creation of Allah? Do we rely on Jahannam or Jannah? Who do we rely on only and exclusively? Allah. Tawakkul is only a matter of between us and Allah. So He switches the order immediately and makes it exclusive immediately. Only upon Him do we place our trust. And this happens in a split second. That's the incredible thing. You know, we're talking about speech that happens. For us, this will take me 10 minutes to explain, by the way. And at the very least, I would have to add the word only. And by the way, I wouldn't even add the word only. Now, normally we say, English translations say, say He is Ar-Rahman, say He's the most merciful, we believe in Him and we rely upon Him. That's how it's translated. Wait. There's a problem there. We only rely upon Him. Like even when we're writing down a translation, which is different from speaking, because when you're writing you can take your time and edit your words and think them through, even then we don't think of it. And here Allah is saying it so accurately just in speech, just split second. I want you to be aware of this reality as we go through this section. When human beings speak, they make mistakes. It is inevitable. I spoke to you for I don't know how many hours yesterday. And as I was speaking to you, I am sure I made tons of grammatical mistakes. I am absolutely certain that I repeated myself several times. And as I repeat myself, it is actually considered a kind of mistake. In other words, if you took a transcript of my speech and you went through it, there would be times I would mispronounce something. There would be times where I would misspeak. There would be times where I would omit something that I should have said. There would be times that I'd say the same sentence 2 or 3 times. You don't write like that. You don't write an email like that. You don't write an essay like that. You don't write an article like that, because you get rid of all the omissions. You get rid of all the mistakes. You get rid of all the repetitions, because you go through an editorial process. When you hand in, some of you, when you go to school, you go to college or university, you have an essay assignment. And you hand in the professor. Some professors are very merciful. They ask you for the first draft. Version 1. So you give it to them and they destroy it and then say, bring me back the real version now. Right? Give me the second draft. And do you write your essay one time and that's it? You don't even look back? Or do you go for spell checking and correcting and taking out sentences and moving paragraphs? Do you do this? You have to do what is called an editorial process. As a matter of fact, not just you're college students, therefore you're terrible at writing, but other people, like authors, people who write actual books. Even they write a book and then they come out with 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition. In the intro to the book, in the preface, they say, I'd like to thank my friends who told me to get rid of that chapter because it was really stupid. And I'd like to thank my mother who told me I'm a loser. And all of these things, like they write those things in the preface because there is such a thing as an editorial process. The incredible thing about the Quran is that it wasn't given to humanity in the form of a book. It was given to humanity in the form of speech. In the form of speech. And the problem with speech is once it leaves your words, you can no longer edit them. When you write something on paper, you can actually cross it out. You can edit it. When you're typing something up, until you hit send, you can still go back and erase. You can still change. There's an opportunity for you to edit. But the Quran, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say it, and he doesn't get to say it and say, wait, let me say that better. Hold on, let me just give you a better version. No. You say it once, and that is the final version, the version we're still reciting now. The version that we're still reciting now. And for that first version to be perfect is humanly impossible. That's the point we're trying to explore here. Why is this speech impossible in my belief and your belief? Why is it impossible to replicate? Just purely from a linguistics perspective, from speech pathology perspective. Now look at this. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, let's see, because I want to go through this one rather quickly. I'll give you the really hard ones. The ones that are harder to understand, I want to do them with you, inshallah. All right, let's look at this one. Allah says in Surah Al-Kahf, Al-Basir bihi wa asmi'. This is on the next page, on page 15. Surah Al-Kahf, right towards the middle. Al-Basir bihi wa asmi' ma lahum min dunihi min wali wa la yushriku fi hukmihi ahada. Al-Basir or Absara or Basira. Anyone know what that means? What it has to do with? It has to do with seeing. Wa asmi' from sami'a yasma'u sam'an. Anyone? Hearing. So it has to do with seeing and hearing. And roughly translated, the ayah means Absir bihi wa asmi', how well he sees and how well he hears. How well he sees and how well he hears. It's talking about Allah. Now what's peculiar about this is that actually in the rest of the Quran, consistently, Allah actually mentions seeing first and hearing second. The speech pattern of the Quran is not to mention seeing first. The speech pattern of the Quran is what is mentioned first? Hearing first, and seeing is mentioned second. For instance, when Allah talks about the creation of the human being, Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. Okay? We made him able to see, or able to hear, able to see. So hearing is mentioned before seeing. And this is consistent across the Quran. Even Allah's names, As-Sami' Al-Basir. Which one will you find first? Will you find Al-Basir, As-Sami' or As-Sami' Al-Basir? As-Sami' Al-Basir. So Allah, the hearing, the seeing. So hearing is consistently mentioned first. There are only 2 exceptions to this. Of the dozens of examples where hearing always comes first, 2 times the pattern is broken. And you would think, why would the pattern break? The 2 times, this is one of them. Absir bihi wa asmi', and then the one underneath it is the second one. You see towards the end, absarna wa sami'na. Absarna wa sami'na, which means we see and we hear. Instead of saying what? We hear and we see. It's reversed. So the question becomes, why change the sequence unusually in this case? In the first case, it's talking about the people of the cave. These young men went and hid away from their village and their city. They went hiding inside of a cave. And when they went hiding inside of a cave, the problem wasn't that nobody could hear them. The real problem was that nobody could find them. Nobody could see them. Nobody could see them. And so in that context, what Allah wanted to highlight first and foremost was nobody knew where they were, but how well Allah sees. You understand? There's a reason to highlight that first. Additionally, first of all, you don't even know where they are. But Allah, not only does He have full view of what's going on inside the darkness of a cave, He also has complete details, the smallest details of the most intimate conversations that are happening among friends inside of this cave. There's no microphone there, there's no camera there, there is no journalist there taking notes, they are not transcribing their conversation, there is no historical record of what happened inside the cave, except the only witness there is Allah. And He's recording this conversation. Which leads me to another point on the side. The Quran has its unique perspective on history, because usually when you read a book of history, you get the perspective of an author. You get the perspective of a researcher. You get the perspective of someone who's gone through the accounts of other people. When you're reading the Quran and you're reading history, who is the actual historian? Allah Himself. You're getting Allah's perspective on history in the Quran, not a historian perspective, not a scholar's perspective, not a human perspective. It's remarkable. And when a historian writes his history, I'm still on that side note because it's important. When a historian writes history, he mentions the details that he thinks are important. Okay, so he'll mention the army was made up of approximately 3,000 soldiers. They traveled from north to south. They traveled for 3 months. The battle went on for 4 years. Whatever. He'll mention the big details. You're not going to find a historian that is going to say, and by the way, there was a conversation that happened between 2 soldiers over lunch. Here's what it was. You're not going to find it. Why? Because the historian says that is not an important detail. I need to give you the overall picture. You understand? They skip the details, and they don't even have access to those details. Who's going to record a conversation between 2 guys over lunch? And then you look at the Quran, and these young men are sleeping, and then they wake up. And they wake up and they say, hey man, how long were you sleeping? And the other one says, I think yawman or ba'da yawm. I think it was a day. No, it wasn't a whole day. No, that's crazy. The sun's still out. It must have been an hour, ba'da yawm, some part of a day. I think we had a power nap. And another guy says, man, who cares day, part of a day? I'm hungry. فَبْعَثُوا أَحَدَكُمْ بِوَرِقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ. Dude, forget about, Allah knows better, okay? Who cares about this conversation? We need to eat. Let's go, let's collect money. How much you got? How much you got? How much you got? Give it to this guy, because this guy knows all the restaurants. He knows the good spots to eat. You go out and get us food, bro. What, you want me to go back into the village? They're looking for us in the village. They're going to arrest us. Just watch out. Just watch out. Just be careful, okay? And don't act all like, just act normal. Okay? وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. Quran says, وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. Just be chill, dude. Just take it easy. So when you go into the city, just take it easy. وَلَا يُشْعِرَنَّ بِكُمْ أَحَدًا. And don't let anybody know what you're really up to. Don't order like 15 bags of food. One guy's walking around like 15 bags of food. Like, where's this guy going, all that food? You know? Well, I was hungry, you know. This really, it seems like a really casual conversation. Would you find a conversation like this in a history book? No. And even if you did, it would be a conversation between a king and his minister, or between, an ambassador, or somebody important in some public setting where there are scribes and historians that are writing things down. This conversation is happening inside of a cave. And how well Allah hears. You appreciate the perspective on this now? What Allah is saying here? It's remarkable, really. The other place that this is mentioned is also incredible. It's incredible. Allah says, وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ نَاكِسُوا رُؤُوسِهِمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. If you could only see the time when criminals are going to be holding their heads down before their master in humility, meaning the day of judgment, and people are embarrassed and humiliated and they can't even lift their head before Allah, and they turn to Allah and they say, رَبَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا وَسَمِعْنَا. Ya Allah, we've seen enough. Okay, I believe now. I see it. وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. Hellfire is brought forward for whoever to see. Now these people are and they don't want to see it, by the way. Their heads are held back. Look at it. And they say, okay, we see, okay, I'm ready to listen now. So he says, I see, and therefore I am ready to listen. But the entire point of the message of Islam for all of the prophets was, the prophets are asking for you to listen. And the people said, no, we don't want to listen, we want to see. Wasn't that the problem? Every prophet said, please listen to me. Please listen to me. The believers who listened to the prophet said, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. إِنَّنَا سَمِعْنَا مُنَادِيًا يُنَادِي لِلْإِيمَانِ. Not إِنَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا مُنَادِيًا. إِنَّنَا سَمِعْنَا مُنَادِيًا. We heard the call of a caller calling to Iman. The prophets are saying, please listen to what I'm saying. No, we don't want to listen. If you really want to impress us, don't impress us with your words. How about you show us an angel? Let's see it. So an angel talks to you? I don't see an angel. Can you demonstrate this angel for me, please? Oh, so you get a book? Let's see the pages. Let me see the pages floating down from the sky. Then I'll believe you. Oh, you want to talk about Allah? Let's see Him. Oh, you're talking about some punishment that's going to come? Fire's going to rain from the sky? There's going to be an earthquake? There's going to be a flood? Yeah, I've heard that enough. Let's see it. وَيَسْتَعْجِلُونَكَ بِالْعَذَابِ. In other words, the entire problem of the disbeliever was, I am not interested in hearing, I am only interested in seeing. On Judgment Day, exactly as per his request, what does Allah make him do? See, and he says, okay, I see, I'm ready to listen. That's why that's mentioned. Meaning in dunya, it's about listening. And in akhirah, it's about seeing. In dunya, you listen and come to your faith. In this world, you listen and you reach faith. And in the afterlife, it is you see, and then nobody disbelieves in the afterlife. Everybody's a believer because they've seen now.